Okay, so we're going to make sauerkraut today, and yeah, please go, there are links underneath to go to my two other videos on sauerkraut. One is about the bacterial progression, which makes sauerkraut, and it tells you what temperature you need to make it, etc. And the other one is about the medicinal effects, very interesting. So I thoroughly recommend those two videos. So yeah, so let's have some tips. I've already started to make some, as you can see here, some tips. Number one, the jars, when you clean them, always make sure you've got one already assembled, because when you take these wires and stuff off, if you're as stupid as I am, it can be a bit of a puzzle to put the lid back on. So keep one out so you can copy it, yeah? That's number one. Number two, when you clean your jar, you need to pour some hot water in it, get some hot water in it. And this is you need this tip for I'll show you something else in a minute, and you'll need this tip for that as well. So when you pour the hot water in, always have about an inch of water in the bottom, and you can pour boiling water straight in as long as you pour it so it hits the middle, yeah? So it hits the center of the water, and you can pour boiling water straight up, and it won't crack the jar. Otherwise it will crack. If you pour boiling water straight in, it'll crack immediately. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, the best temperature to make sauerkraut, and you'll see this in my second video on sauerkraut. You'll see that the best temperature to make sauerkraut is 18 degrees C, which is 64.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, what you need is this cool box. And by the way, for any Indians watching, and people who live in Queensland, Australia, where it's very hot, yeah, in Queensland it can be 35 degrees C regularly, and that you'll get terrible, you won't make good sauerkraut. The same in India, it's so hot. They tried to make sauerkraut on a commercial basis, but it just didn't work in India because it's too hot. But you can make it. This is how you can make it. And in India, see these cabbages? If you're watching from India, there's nothing wrong with the colour balance. This is a white cabbage, which we have in the UK, and you don't have these in India. You have green cabbage. It looks exactly the same, except that it's green. So you can make sauerkraut with green cabbage, no problem. It'll make perfectly good sauerkraut. You can make sauerkraut with any cabbage, really. We tend to use white cabbage. I make it with red cabbage. That's another story. We'll come on to that in a minute. But anyway, if you're in India, put these in your freezer, these bricks in your freezer. You'll probably want about 10 of these, and keep 5 in the freezer, and then you can rotate them, yeah? So you put your sauerkraut in the cool box, yeah? Put your sauerkraut in the cool box, and then put your bricks straight out to the freezer, put these in. You can put about 3, if you make a lot of sauerkraut in one go, you can put 3 jars in, and with your thingies, yeah. If you are in India, I really recommend making sauerkraut. It's fantastic for your health, particularly good for your colon. Have a look at my my third video on sauerkraut on the medicinal effects. You'll see the wonderful things sauerkraut can do for you. Okay. The other thing is, we need, and you'll need this, one of these as well. I'll put that down a minute. You'll need one of these, which is, I've got two of them here and I've got them tangled up. You'll need one of these. I don't know if you can see there. It's, at the moment, it's 23.3 degrees C here. The batteries in these last about 3 months. If you want to stop the battery going down, just take the batteries out at the back if you're not using it. Anyway, so you put this little toggle thing here that measures the temperature. If I put my thumb on my fingers on there, it's going to go up. Yeah, we'll see the temperature go up. 28, 29, 30, blah blah blah. It's going up. Okay, so put that in that. With your sauerkraut in there, and just put this. Just put this on the outside. There we go, like that. Yeah. So you can, and you'll probably want to have a look at this twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, and you can rotate rotate these thingies. Yeah. So if this is saying, say, 22 or 23 degrees, if you're in India, rotate the I don't know what these are called actually. Frizet. This is. Anyway, I don't know what the technical term for these is, but anyway, so when the temperature gets up on the temperature gauge, so remember 18 degrees C and 64.5 degrees centigrade, that is. Okay. The other thing is, if you're in if you're in Northern Europe or Northern USA, and it's very cold in winter, say it's only 11 degrees C, and you haven't got central heating or something, you can do the same thing, put your sauerkraut in there, and you'll need 2 jars like this of water, 2 jars of hot water. Pour it right up to the top with boiling water. So 2 jars in there, same thing, put the top on, put your temperature gauge thingy in there. Okay, and you'll probably want to renew, pour the water out into your kettle, boil it up again. You'll probably want to do that twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. When you get up, the temperature thing will probably read about 16 or something. You put your things with boiling water in again. Put the top on. After about an hour, it'll probably get up to about 22 degrees C, but the average will be about 18 degrees C. If you keep the sauerkraut at 18 degrees C, it really makes fabulous sauerkraut. And you'll see in my second video on the process, the bacterial process, the bacterial progression. You'll see why that works so well. Okay, put that out of the way. We can put that out of the way now. Okay. What other tips? Sauerkraut is very handy for for making a meal very quickly, a healthy meal. Like if you've had a hard day and you really don't feel like cooking, please don't eat processed food. Don't go out. Don't go to a takeaway, and don't get one of those ready-made meals and put it in a microwave. That is really the quick route to being dependent on doctors, and you really don't want that. They'll kill you. So you can put some sauerkraut in a bowl with some. Avocado pear and some nuts, and then I like this stuff, which is engevita, which is yeast flakes. Loads of vitamin B in this, particularly B6. It's a really good hit of B vitamin. Tastes great as well. Tastes a little bit like Parmesan cheese. I prefer this to Parmesan cheese. my videos are all about the cellulose diet, how to eat on the cellulose diet, my supercharged version of the cellulose diet. And yeah, so I lost my train of thought now. So yeah, it's, if you want, a healthy meal, a quick meal, takes 2 minutes. A bit of sauerkraut in a bowl, some avocado, pear, some nuts. Stir it all around with a bit of Engevita yeast flakes, and you're good to go. And it's delicious. It's delicious. Takes 2 minutes to make, yeah. And that's a really healthy meal. So okay, so let's make sauerkraut. Now I'm making it with black radish. Black radish. You'll see a video. I'll put a link underneath. To my healthiest breakfast ever. Black radish stimulates bile. So if you have black radish with some, with oil or fat, and some beta carotene. Sorry, you don't need to have fat or oil. You just need the black radish. If you have carrots or beetroot, which got lots of black radish in, which have got lots of beta carotene in, and you have some black radish, it will transform the beta carotene into retinol, which is the animal form of vitamin D, animal form of vitamin A. Vitamin A. Beta carotene on its own won't become vitamin A, and doing like that, you can never overdose on the retinol, because once you've reached the optimum amount of retinol, your body will simply stop transforming it. So this is great, to have at the end of a meal, and and it cleans, it stimulates bile. So bile, when you produce bile, it cleans out the liver. It cleans out all the toxins in your liver. So this is really good for two things. Number one, to get optimum vitamin A, and number two, to detoxify. Okay, so and it tastes great with sauerkraut. I promise you, it tastes really. It's really, really food made for the gods. Okay, so another thing we've got. I use red cabbage. Red cabbage has a thing in it which is really good for your prostate. It's the same thing that's in passata, which is concentrated concentrated tomato paste, passata, all those things, got lots in it. That's why men in Napoli, where they eat nothing but tomatoes, everything with tomatoes, men in Napoli don't have prostate cancer. So I'm 70, so I need to be careful with my prostate. So I eat lots of red cabbage. I also eat one watermelon, half a watermelon a day, which has also got the stuff in it. So right, so let's make some sauerkraut. You'll want to remove the outer leaves, because the outer leaves have got they've got millions of bacteria that we don't want in the sauerkraut, yeah? Or you can wash them, Pedersen, who is the god of sauerkraut making, says you should wash the outer leaves because of that. But he was referring really to commercial production, which doesn't really concern us. So I think it's just easier just to take the outer leaves off, yeah? So take these outer leaves off. Now we're going to make our sauerkraut with whey. How do you make whey? Well, what you do, you see I've got some already made here. What you do is you get a strainer like this, and I've used 2 cartons of yogurt. Make sure the yogurt says live culture on the carton, yeah. Otherwise it won't work. Otherwise it must be live culture, yeah. So make sure it says live culture. So then pour your yogurt into here and leave it overnight. It happens very quickly, but overnight is fine. or even in the daytime, in a couple of hours, in a few hours, it'll separate out, and in here you'll get cottage cheese. This was made from yogurt yesterday. So we put it in chef's muslin. Okay, this is how to make whey, how to separate yogurt into whey and cottage cheese. So we pour the yogurt into here. This is chef's muslin. You can use cheesecloth. Cheesecloth is probably a bit too coarse, but you could double it up. Yeah, you could double the cheesecloth to make it a bit finer. But there we go. So that's lovely cottage cheese. That is absolutely delicious, but I can't eat that. I don't eat that. I follow the Sennulé diet. So if you're on the Sennulé diet, just throw it away or give it to someone. Yeah, give it to someone who's not on the diet. It is absolutely delicious. We'll get rid of that. So cottage cheese on the top and whey at the bottom. The cottage cheese tastes wonderful, tastes fabulous. But we're following the Sennulé diet, yeah, and if you're following the Sennulé diet, we don't eat any dairy. So give the cottage cheese away, give it to somebody who's not on the Sennulé diet. They'll appreciate it, or just chuck it away. Yeah, I'd chuck mine away. Okay, the whey is is a little bit of a slip up for the Sennulé diet, but I don't think it makes any, a little bit of whey won't make any difference. And it makes fantastic sauerkraut. So this is Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon, and this is a great book for health nuts, but it's not really strictly Sennulé. She talks about making bread, especially sourdough bread. On the Sennulé diet, we don't eat bread. We don't eat wheat. We eat only brown rice, buckwheat, and quinoa. Those are the only things that are allowed, only grains that are allowed on the Sennulé diet. So yeah, and there's things about cooking at fairly high temperature. We don't cook at anything above 110 degrees C. I've forgotten what that is in Fahrenheit. Well, we'll put that up on the video, when we edit it. Okay, so let's have a look at Sally's recipe for sauerkraut, and this is a great recipe. I always make sauerkraut with this recipe. Now the proper way to make sauerkraut is just with salt. Okay, just salt and nothing else. According to Pedersen, the god of sauerkraut making, inoculating doesn't make very good sauerkraut. But I made two batches. I made one batch with whey and one, the canonical whey, with just salt, to compare the taste, and the whey was much nicer, much less salty, really much nicer, so it does work. So here is her recipe. So one medium cabbage, you want a tablespoonful of caraway seeds. We got caraway seeds here, a tablespoonful of sea salt, and 4 tablespoonfuls of whey. That's a medium cabbage. Okay, so yeah, let's crack on. So I think, what's this? I think that's a medium cabbage, isn't it? Maybe a little bit bigger than a medium cabbage. So we want to get rid of the core. So we need to slice it up. And where's the core gone? Here we go. Bit less of a core with the red cabbages, I think. Yeah, it won't matter if you get the core in your sauerkraut, actually, apart from taste. It'll work perfectly well, but we'll get rid of the core. Okay. So a little bit of core won't harm, but best if you can get rid of it. So get these ready to put through the Vitamix. You want a really sharp knife, yeah. I've sharpened these. Where's my knife sharpener? I bought it. Yeah, I use this to sharpen the knife. This little thingy here works really well. Let me show you. This knife's clean. So you just sharpen it like this. Yeah, where can I do this? So sharpen it like this. And it works really well. Gets it really sharp. Okay, so we got a sharp knife. We cut our cabbage. Now. This is a Magimix. Let me show you this. So, oh yeah, another tip. Where you always remember this thing in here. If you put this thing in here and you haven't used the Magimix for 6 months or so, and you get it out, and you'll be looking for this, and it'll be in here, and it doesn't look as if it's, you know, it just looks as if it's the standard top. Yeah, you don't realise it's in here, and you turn your kitchen upside down looking for the bloody thing, but it's in here all the time. Okay, so, you know, just if, you know, I don't think you're probably not as stupid as I am, but, you know, for anyone who's as stupid as I am, there we go. So these are here's the buttons for the Magimix, and it won't start until it's fully assembled, and it'll only start when it's assembled properly. So here's the blade I'm using. That's the blade I'm using. Okay. You can get other blades. You might want to experiment with blades. You want your sauerkraut as finely shredded as possible. I think it's this blade. You know, it's not too bad. It makes fairly good sauerkraut. Okay, now it's fully assembled. You can see I can turn it on now. Okay. So. So if you live in India and you're making my sauerkraut, it will be green cabbage. Okay, you can't. I don't think you can get red cabbage in India, but green cabbage is fine. See, it works. It goes through really fast. Yeah, I mean, slicing the cabbage by hand, really laborious. All the videos I've seen on making sauerkraut on YouTube, they're all slicing by hand. Oh, very laborious. I like to make loads of sauerkraut in one go. I make, you know, 3 or maybe 4 of these jars, keeps for ages. Sauerkraut, you don't need to keep it cool, you know, in a fridge or anything like that. You can if you want to, but, you know, it takes about a month to ferment properly at 18 degrees C. At 18 degrees C, 1 month, and you've got perfect sauerkraut. Okay, if you leave it, I don't know, if you leave it out in the heat, it does get a bit mushy. Still perfectly edible. But you probably, you know, after a month's time, you want to leave it somewhere cool. It'll keep for ages, you know, it'll keep for years, really. 1 year is probably the limit, you know, for nice tasting sauerkraut. But it needs to be somewhere cool. You could, you know, if you've got a big fridge, you could put it in the fridge. But, you know, I wouldn't bother, you know, only if it's getting a bit mushy, put it in the fridge. So. Here we go. So, by happy circumstance, 1 medium cabbage is about 1 Magimix full. Okay. So, if you've forgotten you know, if you've forgotten what cabbage you put in, you know, what sort of size the cabbage was that you put in your Magimix. 1 Magimix full is about 1 medium cabbage. So again, you can, 1 / 2 / 3 / 4 / 5 / 6 / 7 / 8 / 9 / 10 / 11 / 12 / 13 / 14 / 15 / 16 / 17 / 18 / 19 / 20 / 21 / 22 / 23 / 24 / 25 / 26 / 27 / 28 / 29 / 30 / 31 / 32 / 33 / 34 / 35 / 36 / 37 / 38 / 39 / 40 / 41 / 42 / 43 / 44 / 45 / 46 / 47 / 48 / 49 / 50 / 51 / 52 / 53 / 54 / 55 / 56 / 57 / 58 / 59 / 60 / 61 / 62 / 63 / 64 / 65 / 66 / 67 / 68 / 69 / 70 / 71 / 72 / 73 / 74 / 75 / 76 / So then you know for the one Maggi mix full, you need 1 tablespoonful of salt and 4 tablespoonfuls of whey. Okay, so there's my gloves, put my gloves on. Come on, gloves, go on. Oh, these are powder-free gloves. Pain in the arse to put on. Get powdered gloves, much easier. They leave a bit of talc on your hands when you take them off. But okay, so this is a bit too much in one go for the bowl to put the salt and whey in. So we'll divide it up into half. Yeah, half. There we go. So now salt. We want to be using this French sea salt, sel de Guérande. This is genuine sea salt. If you buy sea salt and it's white, it's not really proper sea salt. It's been refined. But we want this. It's got all the minerals in, yeah. So it's grey. Proper sea salt is grey. Sel de Guérande. You can get it on Amazon, both Amazon.com and Amazon.co.uk. So 1 tablespoonful of that. So I'll put half a tablespoonful in here, half in here. I'll put a little bit more in, just a tiny bit more, because it's fairly big, a bit more than medium maybe. So I'll put just put a little bit more. And the whey, so it's 4 tablespoonfuls. So it's two tablespoonfuls in this, 2 tablespoonfuls in that. Now I'm going to put another tablespoonful in for good luck. Okay, so I'm going to use 6 tablespoonfuls. Okay. Getting a bit messy here. So now you've got to beat the crap out of this. Okay. Beat this to death. And it'll get all the juices out. It'll mix the salt in, brings the juice out. And oh, I've forgotten the black radish. Yeah, black radish as well we want. So let's put some black radish in here. Okay, that's what black radish looks like. Okay. The black radish, what I've done, I've scrubbed it very carefully with a nail brush, given it a good scrub, and then I've put it in hydrogen peroxide. You want to put anything you eat raw, put it in hydrogen peroxide, and it'll kill any bugs. Hydrogen peroxide at 13 degrees, 13% hydrogen peroxide. You get it in a 5 litre flask here, and put it in a bowl. Now hydrogen peroxide, you must be careful if you've got kids. Put the hydrogen peroxide out of their reach. Okay, don't put it in a jug in the fridge. Yeah, because it looks just like water. Someone could plug it straight down and it would kill them. Okay, if you splash hydrogen peroxide on you, it just stings a bit. Yeah, so if you get any on you, just put it under the, put the skin under the tap, wash it off. But yeah, it stings a bit. That's all. A bit like a stinging nettle. But really be careful. Keep it out of the reach of kids. Get a cupboard you can lock. to keep the hydrogen peroxide. Okay, so that's what I've done. Put it in hydrogen peroxide for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I've rinsed it, yeah, and dried it off with a paper towel. Okay, so we'll crack on with this. Oh, it's not working now. It'll only work if you... There we go. Yeah, if it's not locked in properly, it won't switch on. There are lots of different food processors. Of course, you might have another different kind of food processor, but they all work the same way, really. There's a particular make in India which I've forgotten, but my Indian video editor told me about it. I can't remember. But that will work fine to make sauerkraut. Okay. So that's what it looks like. Looks really nice, yeah. So you don't have to make sauerkraut with black radish, of course. You can make sauerkraut on its own. You can make it with all kinds of things. You can put some ginger in. Fantastic, tastes fantastic with ginger. There we go. So, yeah, so I'll need to put a bit more salt in for the black radish, and a bit more whey. So, where's the spoon? Yeah. So I think we'll put maybe one more tablespoonful of whey, and yeah, just a little. I think just a little bit of salt for the black radish, just a tiny bit. Yeah, there we go. Nope. So beat this to death. See, I've got a big piece here. Didn't go through the magic mix properly. That's fine, that will ferment perfectly well. It'll taste perfectly okay. Okay, I'll put that in our jar. Oh, I've got some pincer thingies. I've forgotten to bring them out. So, yeah, you can do this with pincer thingies much better than with your hands, but never mind, you can do it with your hands just as well. So, push this down. Now, you want to push it right down until you get liquid coming up. And the liquid needs to cover the sauerkraut, yeah? So it needs to be tamped right down. Let me put this in the middle so you can see. So tamp this right down. Yeah, can you see the juice coming through? Yeah, juice there. So, where are we here? So here's the other bowl. Okay, so can you see? So we need to tamp this right down. Again, so the moisture comes right up to the top. Okay, it's the middle of May here in 2020. I'm making this during the lockdown. Okay, so it's pretty hot here. So I think, yeah, the lockdown is a disaster, totally unnecessary. I'm going to make a video tomorrow about this. Okay, I'll need to make a little bit more. We want it almost up to the top, not quite up to the top. A little bit of space at the top, yeah. So yeah, the COVID-19. No need to put anyone on a ventilator, and no need for anyone to die from any acute infection, whether that's bacterial, viral, or parasitical infection. There's a very easy solution to stop what happens when you get the acute infection. You get pneumonia, you get sepsis, and you get acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS for short. Vitamin C intravenous will stop all of those. There's plenty of studies in medical journals which show that, and people have used it to stop those things, to prevent people dying from acute infection, and it works. You need to use a large amount, usually a large amount of intravenous vitamin C, about 12 grams, at least 12 grams you need to use, and possibly more. If the patient is not responding, you give them more. So that's 12 grams over a day, yeah, so, you know, that's not 12 grams in one go, that's spread out throughout a 24-hour period. And that works every time. Also, you need to have the people who die, the three types of infection. There's mild, moderate, and acute. People with mild and moderate have adequate vitamin D. The people who are, you know, have the acute infection have inadequate amounts of vitamin D. So that's the other thing. You need to take plenty of vitamin D if you don't want to die from COVID-19. And if you vitamin D is low, if you're a black person in the UK or in the US where you're not getting enough, you know, you've got black skin, you'll be very vitamin D deficient. Even if you go out in the summer in the UK, you're not getting enough vitamin D. Even if you go out in the sun, you know, go out in the park, go to the beach, you're not getting enough, because of the melanin in your skin, you're not getting enough vitamin D. So take vitamin D supplement. If you think you're deficient, take 15,000 RUs. RUs means international units, okay? It's a stupid way of measuring, but anyway, we're stuck with it. But take 15,000 RUs. You can do that every day for about 10 days, and then go to 10,000 RUs. The real expert on vitamin D is Professor Hollick, okay? And he says you can take 10,000 RUs for months, okay, without doing any harm. Without acute toxicity. You know, you might, after 6 months, you might want to dial the dose down, or get yourself. You can get measured. You can get it. You know, you can get your vitamin D measured. So it takes about 3 months. Well, it takes a few weeks or months to get your body up to adequate levels of vitamin D. So start now, yeah. They're talking about a second or third wave. So make sure you've got adequate vitamin D so you can resist it, yeah. This whole crisis is totally manufactured. It's total bollocks, okay. Absolutely no need for it. But anyway, I'll be making a video about it tomorrow. So make sure you get plenty of vitamin D. So I think that wraps it up here. Yeah, hopefully my video cameras have recorded all that, and yeah, the microphone is on. Is the microphone on? Yeah, the microphone's on. Okay, so cut.